incident of domestic violence, and it is the incident which would have taken place just earlier this week. We saw where a young couple would have been involved in a murder-suicide. Why does there seem to not be an end or a slowing down to the reports of domestic violence and murder-suicides in Trinidad and Tobago? What are we not doing properly, or what are we not doing enough to deal with issues like this from emerging?
Just to clarify, are we speaking about the young couple from Barrackpore or the young couple from the town?
We are speaking about the young couple from Barrackpore.
From Barrackpore, all right. So, something that I'm not sure everyone is aware of is that over the past 2 years, with the COVID-19 pandemic, with persons being out of jobs, with financial stresses, with persons being trapped together at home, so to
find out that.
there has been a spike in domestic violence. Absolutely. And that is something that we need to be aware of, and we need to put things in place to help persons. Unfortunately, in Trinidad and Tobago, domestic violence is still a very taboo topic to speak about. Some people will say they're not getting involved in man and wife business. Sometimes, these persons have reported going to the authorities and not getting the kind of help that they would like. The authorities say, well, they come, we advise them, and then they go back into the same situation, so what they expect. So this is a very multifaceted issue. We can only make an appeal to anyone out there, male or female, who is in a relationship or in a situation where you feel threatened. Please reach out, try to get help. I am very, very aware that it is not as simple as just walking out of a house, especially if you have children, if you don't have support from others, if you don't have the financial means to leave. It is a very tricky topic, and I certainly do not want to oversimplify it. That being said, try as best you can to reach out and see what options are available to you, and try to have a safety plan in place in case things are getting out of hand.
Now, a lot of focus, Dr. Mahabir, is placed on the woman leaving the situation. And we tend to give women a lot of advice. We tend to give women a lot of resources when it comes to how they could treat a situation in which they are being abused. But what about men who have the tendency to commit acts of abuse? Men who might have seen their fathers respond in similar manners, might have seen the male figures around them, men who may have extreme anger issues, or men who may have a certain view of how a relationship ought to work and how a woman ought to be treated in the event that expectations are not met. What are some of your thoughts on the men involved in these situations?
So, I think that the first thing we need to put down and ascertain is that men or women, adults in general, have a responsibility to manage their own behavior. There's no two ways around it. There is a commonly told story of two brothers, one of whom was an alcoholic and one of whom never drank alcohol. And when they asked the boy who never drank alcohol, why don't you drink? He said, my father was an alcoholic. And when they asked the boy who did drink a lot, why did you drink? My father was an alcoholic. You can come out of a situation, but choose how you respond to that situation. And so that's the first thing, that we're not going to make any excuses for men who hurt other people. All right? If you believe that you went through traumatic things as a child, and it is affecting you and it is affecting your family, because you know that hitting your wife is wrong, or hitting your partner is wrong, then you take the responsibility to go out there and find help and say, I need help to deal with my anger issues, I need help to deal with my addiction, I need help to deal with my financial situation. But don't hit somebody else and then say, well, it's not my fault because this is what I saw growing up.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of what people tend to deal with in terms of domestic violence is usually the fault of the other person. So they believe that the woman caused them to act a certain way, or the woman might have said something or done something that would have provoked an emotion. But instead of that, you are admonishing that each person be responsible for themselves. Dr. Mahabir, given the interest of time and given the fact that we are approaching our end time, what are some of the considerations which you think we ought to be making as a country with respect to these types of social issues we've discussed and how we can move forward addressing them?
Of course, we need a very multifaceted approach. I am a strong believer in community and grassroots organization. We can't always just wait and say, are we waiting for the ministry or the government to do this or to do that. We are all part of a community, and we all are aware at times, not always, but at times, that certain persons are going through difficulties. We should try on an individual level to reach out to our brother and sister and say, look, tell me what's going on. Let me see how I could help. Let me see if I could find the person who could help if I'm not suitably qualified. Obviously, there have been some positive things that we have seen. There is the gender-based violence unit at the CCPS, and they're trying to encourage the police to be more aware of the situation and how to deal with it more effectively, how to interface with the survivors and the victims, and that's very positive as well. But in this day and age where, government say, look, we don't have money for anything, we can each help in our own small way through our social groups, through our churches, in whatever community that we live in. We can help each other, and I think that's where we need to focus.
Well, Dr. Mahabir, I certainly want to thank you this morning. Dr. Shivan Mahabir, clinical psychiatrist, making a number of points this morning on Mr. Speaker. So firstly, Dr. Mahabir is saying that we need to rethink our method of